Hello and welcome back to Ready Player None, the only podcast that's actually gone live. From your perspective, you're listening to this in like April at the earliest. But for me, it's February and it's only been a few days since the first episode went live on YouTube and on Podbean. And I'm nervous and I'm excited. This was a silly little passion project. And now it's something that's out there where other people can listen to it. It's real. Wild. One of the first things that tumbled to me when actually publishing the podcast for the first time is that I should have a dedicated Twitter account, so you can now follow me at rpn_pod on Twitter. So, with a lot of people to disappoint, let's have a look at Chapter 10. Wade has just received the Copper Key, in circumstances too stupid to relate here, and it's taken him an hour to exit the tomb and return back to the surface. He discovers that the tomb was a null communication zone, because he's bombarded with texts and calls and emails from H, his only friend. H has been trying to contact him since his name appeared on the scoreboard, but Wade deletes all the emails and texts and calls, and just sends him one back promising to call as soon as he can. So to answer my question in the previous chapter, Wade is treating his circumstances as if Artemis can also obtain a copy of the Copper Key. This seems odd in the light of that interjection from future narrator Wade, who said that the keys disappear if you're killed while holding one. So maybe there's multiples of each key? I don't know. Wade races back to the transport terminal and teleports himself to one of Middletown's 256 transport terminals. Cute. The entire planet of Middletown is covered in 256 identical copies of Halliday's hometown. A millisecond later, I was standing inside a vintage 1980s phone booth located inside an old Greyhound bus station. I opened the door and stepped out. It was like stepping out of a time machine. Several NPCs milled around, all dressed in mid-1980s attire. A woman with a giant ozone-depleting hairdo bobbed her head to an oversized Walkman. A kid in a grey members-only jacket leaned against the wall, working on a Rubik's Cube. A mohawked punk rocker sat in a plastic chair, watching a Riptide rerun on a coin-operated television.
This is a song from the 80s, the decade which it currently is.
Wade relates a popular theory from the Gunter message boards that there were 256 versions of Halliday's hometown, so that everybody on the hunt can root through looking for clues to find the egg. Of course, all of this searching had yielded a big fat donut. If you're one of the people that watches this on YouTube with subtitles, you've probably noticed that I tend not to use the American English spellings, even in my excerpts from the book. I just thought it was notable that he spelled donut in what I would consider a British English way, with a UGH in the middle of the dough and the nut. Wade's plan is to find the nearest instance of Halliday's house, and should it prove occupied, steal a car and drive to the next unoccupied instance he can find. The place reminded me a lot of the town in the movie Footloose. There's the germ of an interesting idea here, in that Wade is astounded that even lower income families had an entire house to themselves. NPC-piloted cars and trucks cruised slowly up and down the shady streets, all of them gas-guzzling antiques. I passed a service station and the sign said gasoline was only 93 cents a gallon. Okay, I'm turning over on this a little bit now. It's not the germ of an interesting idea after all. That 93 cents a gallon, that's only there for you to say, oh, remember the good old days. Ah, I get it now. Living today, we're a lot more forward-thinking than the 80s. The technology's better. The environmental awareness is better, but could be better still. The standing of ethnic and LGBT plus minorities are also improving compared to the 80s. But this book isn't set today. This book is set in the 2040s. He's made this future era so post-apocalyptic and dystopian, so that a backwards time from 40 years ago is an improvement. I get it now. His childhood was better than your childhood, because today things are all new and strange. I've got you. Wade has kept a tab open of the scoreboard, and a fanfare of trumpets alerts him to the fact that Artemis is now ranking. She's got a score of 9,000 points. The full ramifications of the scoreboard's existence occurred to me for the first time. From here on out, it would not only allow Gunters to keep track of each other's progress, it would also show the entire world who the current frontrunners were, creating instant celebrities and targets in the process. So now aware that Artemis has her own copy of the Copper Key, Wade quickens his pace. He reaches a Halliday house, and much is made of how the place is a 70s construction. The Ford sedans on the driveway are late 70s. Halliday's parents in the photographs dress in late 70s fashion. I recognised the simulated wood grain panelling, the burnt orange carpet, and garish furniture that looked like it had been scavenged from several disco-era yard sales. As we all know, things from the 70s are tacky and horrible, but things from the 80s, that's where the sweet spot is. There's mention made here of a family photo on the living room wall. This portrait had been taken at the local Kmart in 1984. I didn't initially clock that it's supposed to mean a staged photo from a professional photographer, rather than just taken in a supermarket. I got my family portrait taken in the tea and coffee aisle of Asda. There was no hint that the stoic man in the brown leisure suit was an abusive alcoholic, that the smiling woman in the floral pantsuit was bipolar, or that the young boy in the faded Asteroids t-shirt would one day create an entirely new universe. Looking around, I wondered why Halliday, who had always claimed to have had a miserable childhood, had later become so nostalgic for it. So skipping over the guff again, which includes a list of Atari games, as well as a list of what posters Halliday has on his bedroom wall, Wade finds the TRS-80. Wade finds Halliday's video game tapes in an old shoebox, and we get a lovely nostalgic list of text adventures. But it's Dungeons of Daggerath that he's looking for. When a list of the games found in Halliday's bedroom had first appeared online, I'd made sure to download and master every single one of them, so I'd already solved Dungeons of Daggerath about 2 years earlier. Oh, look at that! Another skill that Wade already has. Has he actually learned to do anything new on this adventure so far? Or is it all just stuff he's conveniently already done in a flashback? The screen flashed to black and a crude graphic of a wizard appeared, accompanied by some ominous sound effects. The wizard held a staff in one hand, and below him, printed in all capital letters, was the legend, "I dare ye enter the Dungeons of Daggerath." As Wade plays the game, a jam box sitting on top of Halliday's dresser turned itself on, and familiar music began to blast out of it. It was Basil Poledouris' score for Conan the Barbarian. Wade reminds us that he's playing a game in a van. And he does predictably well at the game in question, including what is no doubt Klein's own anecdotal experience of playing the game. While I was playing, the Conan the Barbarian score ended and the jam box clicked over and began to play the opposite side of the tape, treating me to the synthesizer-laden score for Ladyhawke. Oh, shut up about Ladyhawke! By 4 in the morning, Wade manages to defeat the evil wizard of Daggerath. As I did, an image appeared on the screen, showing a wizard with a bright star on his staff and his robes. The text below read, "Behold, destiny awaits the hand of a new wizard." This activates Halliday's dot matrix printer, which prints off a single line of text. "Congratulations, you have opened the first gate." And Wade glances around and finds that where there was once a War Games poster, there is now a wrought iron gate embedded in the bedroom wall. When Wade uses the copper key to open the gate, it begins to glow and opens inward to reveal a field of stars. It appeared to be a portal into deep space.
My God, it's full of stars.
I heard a disembodied voice say. I recognized it as a soundbite from the film 2010. Then I heard a low, ominous hum, followed by a piece of music from that film's score, also Sprach Zarathustra by Richard Strauss. And Wade jumps into this endless field of stars. End chapter 10. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, and kids, records were things from the 80s that people used to listen to music on. This is another chapter where Wade's exact skills have proven exactly what he needs to win in the scenario that he finds himself in. There's no adversity, and consequently there's no tension. He's played 2 video games and has been rewarded handsomely for it. The most difficult thing he's had to do is talk to a girl. Perhaps the part of being named like a superhero's secret identity such as Clark Kent was a clue that he'd take after Superman, and that he'd have a laundry list of hitherto unmentioned skills to suit every situation, like back in the Silver Age. Speaking of people with phenomenal powers, I've been Gherkin. Follow the show on Twitter at RPN_pod, or follow me on Twitter at TheLastGherkin. Watch with subtitles on YouTube, The Last Gherkin, or download the MP3 at thelastgherkin.podbean.com. Till next time, catch me blissfully fantasizing about Wade dying in deep space. Oxygen deprivation. Oh, explosive decompression. I just looked up a clip of Dungeons of Daggerath, and once you begin the game, the first thing it says is prepare. They should have called this book Prepare instead of Ready Player One. Prepare. there's now a wrought iron copper gate. Wrought iron copper? What the hell is wrong with me?